Good morning, sir. Couple of books I thought I will show. This is a popular one or highly recommended for the students. But after you have finished your own regular kind of a stuff. Tribal Cultures of India by L.P. Vidyarthi. I was speaking about this book many times in the class. L.P. Vidyarthi's Tribal Cultures in India. This is a signature color. He didn't change the color also. And book published during 1970s. I don't know if you were born. This is the kind of font that he uses. Very highly paper saving kind of a thing. इसको खरीदने अभी नहीं बोल रहे. जब आप बाकी कुछ कर लो, कुछ और दम बाकी है, then you'll do this. Otherwise, there are topics like, impact of particular religions, impact of modernization, etc., etc. on Indian tribes. We generally follow this book. अब book बता रहे, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप खरीदो. आप मानो इसको खरीद भी लोगे, अब ये तो नहीं खरीदोगे. This is a very old book, fossilized. First print 1928. This is this book written by Kroeber, Anthropology by Kroeber, 1928. And then 48 was the second print. He has revised. So 1972, when this book was purchased by the person who had given to me, it was 15 rupees. 15. That was the price of 1972. This is a book of Kroeber. Unfortunately, he is mentioned in your syllabus only in diffusionism. But there are a good lot of other things that this particular book talks about. For example, he was the one who was trying to study art forms. See, for example, here there are so many horse-related pictures. Unfortunately, that time they did not have color printers. So he was trying to describe with the colors at the other places. But this was the kind of comparison he was giving about how the Romans were riding, how others were riding. So based on how you are actually riding a horse, you can be identified to which particular culture group you belong. It is not simply the decoration that you make to the horses. And there are several other things also. Some of the things that we might discuss in today's class, like Paleolithic art forms. He has given certain pictures there. So these were the kind of books that people used to write. One other old stuff. This name we have come across in yesterday's class, Buettner Janusz, Origins of Man, which had a same kind of market which Darwin's book had. Origins of Species. This is actually a book of Buettner Janusz, especially for physical anthropology. I wanted to show something here. So he was giving pictures. This is the unfortunate state. Black and white, you really can't make out anything, or black and black rather. And most of the work was done in 1950s, but the print had come in 1966 at a price of 15 rupees at that time. I'm looking for some picture. Most often he used to have hand paintings, hand drawings. All this, whatever he was doing at that time, were hand drawings. These days, the book writers need not have to have hand drawings. You have so much of technology there. There is one table actually, which I would be showing at a later point of time. See, these are the kind of pictures, all hand drawn ones, which he was giving in the print. So looking at this, it feels that a person who was writing in 1950s, 40s, he used to spend a lot of time and effort in writing a book rather than people who are doing now. A click of a camera is sufficient to get a lot of other things. There is one table which I will show to you. I read this one especially for fossil evidences. This man is an authority, special authority on Australopithecus. A bit of explanation on that, and then I will take you to where we had stopped in the previous class. Buettner Janusz was trying to solve a major problem which anthropologists were facing. See, there was a time when I was saying in yesterday's class that Australo has a number of variants within itself. So it was like whoever was discovering one particular fossil, they were trying to give name based on their own understanding. So a chaotic situation had emerged wherein the scientists have found that innumerable names were given for the same species and same genus sometimes. So it was a big challenge for him. There were about 50 to 60 names that were given to almost a similar looking individual. This man took up the task. He accumulated all those fossils that were dug by different anthropologists. Then he had conducted the detailed study and finalized that, see, all these belong to the same genus, but within the same genus there are different species. Then he could conclude that there are two major species within the genus of Australo, and there are certain other smaller variants. So everything said and done, he brought it to two major groups, and within that, if you go into the details, at the most you get 7 or 8 names, whereas people were giving more than 50 different names for the similar looking individual. That was the work that was done by him majorly in this particular book, that is Buettner. This is a very colorful one. This is a contemporary one. In fact, there are others also, pictures of the females, etc. I thought I would bring them at a later point of time, but here this is sufficient. Which nationality, I mean which culture group or region he could be from? At least in the people who are in the front will be able to. Any such kind of body painting you have seen in the class? Jarawa to colorful nahi rahega. Jarawa uses mud only. Anybody who was using those vibrant colors? Could be. Aur bataएं. In the class we did not talk about red Indians. Todas are not of this kind. Todas are not savages. Polynesians, Trobriand islanders. I think in Trobriand we have seen those in the video. If you could recall, they were using those very bold colors. Trobriand videos of Malinowski. Agar yaad nahi, to you can go back, see once again. This was one of the things that had attracted him. So this person gives very modern kind of pictures. For example, here, these are all the pictures of the human and the human far-off cousin. I tried to give some of these pictures an ape women topic, no? Where one particular lady is trying to teach how to use a computer or how to play the video games kind of a stuff. So he is the one who gives colorful pictures. I'll show you some. I know even if you are not buying any other book, you would want to buy such books. So even if you are not reading anything anthropology, you would want to buy them for the sake of the pictures. This is the contemporary anthropology. More than half the book you are filling with photographs. In the rest of it, you are writing with such a big font that you are not even filling half the page. And this is all the body painting, different varieties. At some places you also have Indian women also somewhere there. This especially I like it. It makes your neck go elongated. like a giraffe's neck you get. So this is one more, the Red Indian kind of a stuff. And as a part of these books that he has written, he also gives peculiar Indian pictures. I mean, India of Southern Asia, Indian pictures where you see that cow are actually revered in particular ways. So this is one Yanomamo tribe, how they actually deal with their forests and what kind of economic subsistence they are into, kind of a stuff. So I think this is the kind of work contemporary anthropologists are mostly doing. And above anybody else, Harris is known for such kind of detailed photography. We will see at one other point of time other important books that you can talk about, or maybe you can dream of reading them sometime in the future. That was the first work. Yesterday we stopped somewhere there. We'll have to write a note, but before that, I thought I would exhibit these, and you would be writing down a couple of phylogenetic pictures. Most often the comparison happens with those nearest apes to us, orang and gorilla. Skin tone of orango and human seem to be near. I wanted to show this in order to make you familiar with this. The smaller thumb there when compared to rest of the hand, rest of the palm. You can see that humans have longer fingers when compared to the palm. But if you see the lines there, gorilla and orang seem to be having precarious future. So many lines and cuts out there, but humans have a decent future. This is the thumb that we are actually talking about that has revolutionized the whole thing. I want you to take down a couple of flow charts, then we will continue to write. This is called two-branch model or Johanson-White model, which believed that there was a common Australo ancestor from where two lines have emerged. This is Afarensis. What I have written here is 2 to 1.5 million years, 1 million years, etc. Two lines of evolution from Afarensis. One takes to the rest of Australo, the other takes to the Homo line. Picture is not to the scale. Because from now we are going to start using the names such as habilis. I didn't want a surprise in the student. Afarensis, Africanus, Robustus, Boisei or Bossi, whatever your convenience. Habilis, Erectus, Sapiens. Anytime when you are drawing evolutionary pictures, you should start from the bottom. Whoever must have come first, from there you should be writing, not the upside down. This was an idea that was popular during late 1970s. After 76 to somewhere about 83, this particular idea was accepted. There were several others. Right now I am not exposing you to all those phylogenetic pictures million years ago. Phylogeny is the broader location of a particular species in the related group. Your status in the related groups there, where exactly you remain. For example, if I am trying to trace how humans must have originated, so you are trying to see who are all there as your ancestors or in that line of evolution or a comparable line of evolution. So there might be, see, it is here that we are simply talking about humans. There could be other line of evolution for, say, chimpanzees or bonobos, etc. That is their phylogenetic picture. Phylum, the basic meaning of it is somebody who looks like you, who is similar to you. Okay. Now, so there was this idea that the various diverse things I am not talking about, I am sticking to only one, that is initially in the linear evolution model which you have written, I remember you have written in yesterday's class. In the linear evolution model, they believed that Australo was the common ancestor. From Australo had come Homo erectus, and from erectus had come Neanderthal man. So Australo to erectus to Neanderthal to Homo sapiens. This was the earliest idea. They believed that there was some ape man. Australo was called the ape man. Pithecus is ape. This was before so many variants were discovered. That was the very simple linear evolution picture. Unfortunately, more and more fossils started coming out. Sometimes due to accident, sometimes intentionally, complicating the whole picture. When large number of variants were coming up, you will have to name them based on the look, and you will have to put them in that evolutionary picture, considering how near they are to the humans, how far they are. So all of a sudden, if you find one particular fossil now, you identify that, okay, it might be having certain characteristics that are intermediate to Afarensis and habilis. You try to put it there. And when I am mentioning these numbers, 2 to 1.5 million years ago or 3 million years ago, these are the time periods within which we are able to find them. Confirmation is coming from the dating techniques. So if we are having a brief look here, we see that maybe there is a lag there of about 1 million years. So the search for missing links will always be there till those gaps are filled. And when you are filling them, you would try to see how close it is to the other people, whether I should call it Homo or whether I should call it Australo. So we will look for certain features, predominantly things like, bipedalism, or how the hand skeleton is, how the face structure is, etc. Based on certain criteria, you will try to place it either with Australo or with Homo. So we are, in the future classes, we are going to see what are the chief characteristics based on which the scientists are trying to name them and place them in that. After that, when so many numbers of species were getting identified, this was the second idea. They thought that maybe there is one common ancestor for the rest of the Australo fossils, fossil man, and the genus Homo. This was the idea given by Johansen, who said that there is a common ancestor for the whole lot of genus Homo and different variants of Australo. And he also expressed it that there is a possibility that there could be several other Australofellows before Afarensis. Afar is the name of the site in Eastern Africa, Ethiopia. The fossil was found there. That is the name why it is called Afarensis. And Africanus, that is a fossil that was found down below in Tong. So if the question is Tong fossil, you are writing about Africanus. If the question is Africanus, you will mention Tong as one of the things and say that there are other places also where this particular fossil was found. Now, as you are seeing, as you are moving to the top, you see that Africanus was giving rise to two other fellows. Now, these two people were called the slender or gracile fellows in Australo, and these two are robust, bulky individuals in Australo. Don't think anything, just keep on listening to what is being said. Remove from mind that you are studying about something that was vague, that you haven't heard of before. See, every time this quest has been there in the mind, this question has been there in the human mind, to understand the origins, where from man must have come. This is one way of looking at things. There can be a theoretical way of arguing about your origins. When somebody was saying that, see, there is something like an evolution from simple to complex, etc., at a theoretical level. When it comes to practical explanations, the practical explanations may be from different ranges of studies. If a core biologist is there, he might be starting from a single cell organism to the various things. But if it is a scholar, somebody who can be called a paleontologist or a primatologist, he would be starting from, say, particular ape individual. So his span of study is less when compared to a core biologist. So we are actually looking at the viewpoint of somebody who can be called a primatologist or a paleontologist. Now, one of the views given by Johansen and White is that there is a possibility that Afarensis is our ancestor, common ancestor, of one line, that is Homo line, and from here other australofossils have emerged. And interestingly, what he mentions is, in the process of evolution, the gracile australo individuals have given rise to robust forms. This was something that was challenged. But then you cannot challenge it so very strongly, because he is also showing the time periods. When it comes to the time period, helps you in establishing your fact, your idea. So Afarensis was coming at 3, and you could see that the physical features were also changing, maybe towards an improvement, or a different variety was coming up. Time periods were giving a confirmation. And based on the time periods and based on certain physical characteristics that are common between them, he was concluding that gracile variety was giving rise to robust. In later classes, we will see the other models also. I didn't want to complicate, I didn't want to see that people run away from me. So that's the reason why we do things gradually, one after the other. Did you note it down? Right now, the purpose of the class is to get you familiar with the terms and to show that, see, we are somebody called genus Homo. Homo, the wise man. The meaning of Homo is the one who is wise. Erectus, Homo erectus, the wise and the first man who stood erect. There are several questions regarding that. Whether is it that erectus was both standing erect and using the tools? There is that argument here. Some people, when they found habilis, who was slightly more ancient in the physical look and also in the time period, they started to claim that habilis was an ancestor of erectus, and habilis was the first man to use the tool, in spite of the fact that he was not having such erect posture which erectus was having. Are you following what I am saying? Habilis is a controversial fellow even today. Some people say that habilis may be a more evolved australo. And a few say that habilis may be the initiation of Homo erectus. When I am saying all this, all these details you will be properly making a note when we write about different fossils. Okay. The problem here is, whether you believe it or not, certain things have to be mentioned in your answers. Yeah, this is a bigger one. You will have to be slightly accommodative. Yesterday I was showing that handwritten picture, but then I thought I will put it in the form of a PPT. This you will write down, not to the scale, but then I am giving the numbers for your comfort. Padkoddu master, please. Note lo inta pedda laddu pettettu note terchi. Em chadukunnaru meeru? What's your background? Educational background? Engineering. Okay. Em cheyalem anamata. But don't worry. sleeping in the class, but these things you write down. Ardipithecus kadabba. Ardipithecus, Ka, Da, Bba. See, I am giving you another set of names for your children. Don't miss on the names. So you can name one of your kids RD. When you can have a car with the name Audi, you can have RD as your child. Kadabba, K. I will write down for the people who are struggling from the back. The last name, actually some of the books, for simplicity's sake, they even call him. It's all our own whims and fancies. We can call them whatever we like. Australopithecus kadabba also. But I take that name because the discoverer named him as such. 5 is the 5 million years ago. 5 million years ago. अब मैं क्या करूं? నువ్వు అలా మాట్లాడితే నేను ఇలాగే మాట్లాడతా. కొంచెం మంచి మర్యాద సిగ్గు మానం ఏమన్నా అస్సలు గౌరవం అనేది లేదు, ప్లీజ్ అనేది లేదు. ఇప్పుడే ఎర్రబస్ ఎక్కొచ్చావు సార్. I think this is okay. The last one I have written there. Ardipithecus kadabba is giving rise to 2 lines here. One line is going to Australoramidus, the other is going to ठहर थोड़ा सा पीछे उन लोगों को भी. So I'll show you the bigger picture once again, sir. There is this common fellow 5 million years ago. From him, when you are moving up, there are 2 lines. One line is going to 4.25 million years. That is Ramidus. For your convenience, I am writing that also. This side you have Ramidus. Australoramidus 4.25 million years ago, and this fellow Kenanthropus 3.5 million years. And then, sir, this is the picture that you will have to memorize for your exam. There is no shortcut. Especially if the question is about Australo's phylogenetic status. This is a mandatory thing. Later you don't complain. If at all you haven't memorized this, not written in the exam, don't complain if you are not getting marks. Now, Kenanthropus, so there are 2 lines there. Sir, wherever this I am leaving without any kind of continuation, it means that he got extinct. These are the fellows who died without leaving the progeny. Very unfortunate thing. That's the reason why I tell you. Once you are born a human, your primary responsibility is to give progeny. Later you do the rest of the things. Your history has to remain. Ramidus, lost man. Then on the right hand side, if you observe, towards the extreme right, I have written Kenanthropus platyops. From in between there is one line going. Now there are many unanswered questions. At what time this must have emerged? And who must have been there? These still have to be discovered. So one line went Kenanthropus, he got extinct. Now this particular line is going up. In this line intermittently we found Anamensis. So Anamensis and Platyops, there are actually at 3.5 only. My picture is not to the scale I was saying this. So maybe you can take it a little that side, both of them side by side you will write. One got extinct, the other one on that line of evolution, that is Australopithecus anamensis. I repeat what I was saying. Everything started with Kadabba. From Kadabba, 2 lines have emerged. One line went to Ramidus, the other line went to Kenanthropus platyops. But before the platyops, there is another subsidiary line that was picked up. And this had given rise to one person called Anamensis. Anamensis and Platyops, they belong to the same time period. Now, Anamensis line is going up, I think from now, it is visible to the last people also. From 3.5, we moved on here. Before that, there is one line of divide. One line is taking to Afarensis, Africanus. There is the other line straight away going to habilis. So all this while we don't have any further fossils. There is a gap of about 1.5 to 1.75 million years there. The rest of it you try to write. And there's one more fellow there. I'm continuing from here. Sir, at this point you have Anamensis, which before going to other forms of Australo had actually given rise to another line of Homo. If you now could recall, go back to the previous chart. In the previous chart, you found Afarensis here. That was the common ancestor of genus Homo and rest of the Australo. But now look at this one. He is placing Afarensis in a different line of evolution, not in the human evolution. Am I clear to you? I repeat. I don't think there's a problem here. In this picture, Afarensis is the common ancestor that gave rise to good lot of Homo and the other Australo species. If this you have understood, there is a modification here. Australo is the common ancestor, but not Afarensis. Now the common ancestor is this fellow, Anamensis. So today, if a question occurs in the exam, Australo Anamensis, you would be mentioning that this is currently accepted as a common ancestor of several Australo species and Homo species. Are you with me, sir? Be in the class, be in the class, don't go out. Now, Anamensis had given rise to two lines of evolution. One had become Afarensis, Africanus, then there is a split there, Aethiopicus, Robustus, Bossi. These three are gracile fellows, these two are robust fellows. But this entire line of evolution gets closed because of extinction of those species. Afarensis, Africanus, Aethiopicus, these are the gracile fellows. Bossi, Robustus are the bigger fellows. How big we will be seeing later. Now when it comes to this line of evolution, Anamensis on the other hand had given rise to habilis. There is one new name I have added here called ergaster. There is the other one called erectus. And then ergaster is nothing but Homo erectus of Africa. Ergaster is now called Homo erectus of Africa. Don't let your mind go clumsy. Carry in mind that we are trying to trace. Carry in mind that we are trying to trace who our ancestors were. Instead of moving from our own biological father to his father, we are slightly moving a little back in time. We are trying to see which species is our father and which other species was there in the grandfather's position. It's as simple as it is. There's something. There's a small announcement for all of us. Saturday we have a class, okay? A regular anthropology class can be held on Saturday from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Morning and night enduku mari anta avesam enduku ratri kuda vachi paatalu cheptukunante. Morning 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock Saturday. This I am making an arrangement so that tomorrow I am not available. Tomorrow we have the other class, some test people are there. So Saturday you are going to have an additional one. In the meantime, you continue your preparation for your upcoming test. Okay, sir? No doubts. Saturday. What's the date? Saturday? 29th. Whatever. Okay. Your weekend is fixed now. Let us come back. వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడడం ఆపితే చెప్తా. కెన్ ఐ టాక్? ఏం పేరు చెప్పాం? హూజ్ మోడల్ ఇస్ దిస్? అది ఇంకా నేను చెప్పలేదు. దిస్ ఈజ్ బై స్కూపెన్. Scoopin's model, very contemporary. The previous one was that Johansen and White. They passed away after a long time. This happened. Skupin's model was given in 2005. Yeah, by any standards, it's very early. I mean, very recent. About 10 years is not a big time. So after actually studying fossil evidences, any time looks to be a small one. Suppose your father says, "Aur kitne saal likhoge?" It actually makes no sense because we are talking about hundreds of millions of years of time. How are you? If at all questions are specially asked, they are clearly on those titles, such as Astrolo. Within Astrolo, he might ask you specially a categorization such as robust Astrolo and gracile. This was a big work that was done by Buettner Janusz. At least 30 pages in that book he writes about Astrolo, where he tries to categorize them, bring all those 50-60 varieties, breaks them into two, gracile and robust. Because I have, sir, last benches, can you please concentrate? తర్వాత మళ్ళీ అర్థం కాలేదంటే కాళ్ళు ఎరగొడతా. See, when I am saying that so many Astrolo variants are there, I also would want to at this stage introduce some other terminology for you. For example, if the examiner calls it, if the question is, he uses this word. Sir, I always focus on giving meanings of the terms to the student so that he won't make a mistake in the exam. If the question is Australopithecines, the expectation of the examiner is discuss different species within Astrolo. This whole thing. How you are going to present it, we will see. But you are not going to explain every fossil in your answer, like starting from Kadabba to etc., etc. We will identify certain very important dots in the evolution, we'll focus on that. And our presentation should be in such a way that, see, you have asked such a big question, I have a lot of information, but due to paucity of space, I am not able to give you the whole thing. You are going to present them, and we will see what details you will give. Some of the fossils you will be writing at length, few you are only indicating to the examiner. That is one question which was asked for 20 marks, which is an impossibility. The flexibility examiner has in these topics is he can ask the same thing for a 60 marks and same thing for 20 marks. 60 marks you can happily write, but 20 becomes a challenge. Of course, you should have content, that's a different story. That was one question. There are the other names. For instance, he gives this, Australopithecus africanus. Very clearly, you are majorly writing about the tongue fossil and related fellows. If at all the question is Lucy fossil, if the question is Lucy fossil, you will write about afarensis. Remember, sir, you are actually writing about the look of the people. Many times you must have described the look of the other fellows. And you must have compared one with the other, one girl with the other. So many times you must have done this. The same thing you are doing here. It is no grand biology you are writing. Bear in mind that you are comparing the look of the two fellows. And based on the look, what they could be doing, whether they are manufacturing certain tools or what kind of ecosystems they were inhabiting, kind of stuff. Try to look at them with affection, sir. As long as you don't love them, you can't learn them. Loving your own discipline is very, very important in order to get the maximum out of it. These are some of the questions. So Australopithecines, sometimes he may simply ask cultural aspects of Australo. Cultural aspects of Australo. If such kind of questions are asked, the examiner is actually asking you to present arguments also. Because anthropologists are divided on this issue. Some believe that Australo had a culture. Many believe that it didn't have. Because most of the time it was busy supporting itself or in a very uncomfortable posture of walk. It was not walking erect. Just imagine you are not walking erect. You must have tried back home. You should try back home this particular thing. Try walking with very, kind of, or very bent feet. When you are trying to walk on the bent feet, very, very uncomfortable it is. And it's like it consumes a lot of energy. There's a strain on the feet. You can't walk for long distances. When I'm saying this, I'm indicating this very special character Homo erectus had got. In that line of evolution, erectus was the first fellow who could travel very long distances. I told you previously, erectus fossils are found across the entire globe. This was possible because he could walk, he could run. If at all anybody could comfortably run in this line of evolution, the first one was erectus. He could travel long distances within short periods of time. Once these two are having a specialization of walking and running alone, and these two are able to do whatever they wanted, now he was able to now do so many things. Did you understand? So that was the special skill that he was getting. We are coming back from that skill thing. So did you take this picture now? Get familiar with the titles. Kadabader, Ramidus, Afarensis, Africanus, Boise, Robustus, Aethiopicus. On this line, this fellow had gone. Anamensis is a common ancestor of us. So if at all we don't know our own great-grandfather, that is going to be a disrespect. Sir, Skupin I have mentioned. Skupin is one of the very popular books in contemporary anthropology. Skupin's Anthropology. Many times I feel like replacing Ember with Skupin. But sometimes it becomes difficult. Boas is Boas, Harris is Harris. Kind of. When you are looking at Ember, you have so many parameters that are covered by him in culture. So we'll have to start writing from where we stopped yesterday. Continue from there. Make a note. I have stopped at some place. Yes. We were writing about the tools and mobility of lifestyle. We were writing. Continue from there. Thinkers such as Johansen and White with the discovery of habilis, opined that it was erectus who stood first in a perfectly erect posture with bipedalism, and habilis was the first man to use tools. Currently, among different opinions, a dominant view has been that habilis was earlier in time in terms of origin and can be considered to be the earliest form of erectus. Underline this sentence. Habilis can be considered as the earliest form of erectus. Most of the evidences, most of the sites provided Paleolithic tool evidences of the Homo erectus phase and not the time related to habilis. This also proves that tool use is mostly associated with erectus. Right in the next paragraph. From the archaeological evidences of a habitat and economy, it has been difficult to confirm the lower Paleolithic developments in a foolproof sequence. Nevertheless, based on the sites producing major tool evidences, one can conclude that the lower Paleolithic man preferred to stay in the open lands near rivers, where he established settlements. Chowkoutian China provided evidence of mammoth hunting, M-A-M-M-O-T-H, mammoth hunting, Homo erectus pekinensis must have lived in communities, and constructed settlements with animal bones and horns. Full stop. In the rest of the world, continue writing there. In the rest of the world, erectus settlements were not associated with cave living, but the Peking man lived in caves that provided evidence of use of fire and human fossils. Right, in the next point. In general, Homo erectus living near the riverbeds, based on hunting, must have followed division of labor. Keep writing. According to Glyn Isaac and Leakey, lower Paleolithic culture presented a gender-based division of labor, which they called, right in quotes, man the hunter model. According to them, man was the primary food earner, with women being limited to child care. Isaac traces evolution of the institution of family to the phase of Homo erectus. However, Jane Goodall, it's there on the board, Jane Goodall criticized the model. For being, right in quotes, man-centered. Based on her studies among the chimpanzees she indicated that even among the pre-human life forms, females offered a predictable and dependable economic source. She compared the chimpanzee social life with that of Kung Bushman, where women played a significant role in food gathering. Right in the next paragraph. Despite the differences among scholars, Louis Binford, I have written on the board, Louis Binford concludes that community living definitely existed in the lower Paleolithic. Such a community life was the result of big game hunting that required a large group of people living together. According to him, the division of labor was based on the kind of a spontaneous release of energy required in hunting that was possessed by man. The role of female shall not be undermined from the perspective of one, dependable source of food, right in the brackets, through food gathering. Secondly, as a source of building the ancient foundations of family. Right in the next paragraph. According to Richard Potts, according to Richard Potts, the institutions such as family are not unique to humans, are not unique to humans. The earlier forms, such as gorillas and chimpanzees, also had such institutions. He challenges a conservative belief that, right in quotes, culture is unique to humans. According to him, if having the ability to make and use tools, can be called culture, it was present even among the chimpanzees and gorillas. In contemporary anthropology, the uniqueness of culture as a human character is also a significant area of debate. I wanted to say something else here. क्या यार इतना स्ट्रेच कर रहे हो, मेरा भी दिल कर रहा है. Suddenly when you wake up from sleep in the class, you tend to do that. Just because certain moments are uncomfortable, don't give up the task. Because it is something like walking an extra mile towards getting those additional marks. If everything was so comfortable, so it's like you should try to keep with the discipline, be patient, don't give up, don't be absent to the class thinking that the neighbor will write. Neighbor is also equally whatever. You can fill the gap. Do not trust your neighbor. That's the first principle in the exam. And do not share with your neighbor. That's the second thing. Be selfish. That pays. I don't want to have that philanthropic, humanitarian kind of things in the exam. Sir, in the Middle Paleolithic, the time period? What's the time period? Middle Paleolithic? 105,000 to 40,000, you can write it there. There are certain names that I want to introduce here. Those are the two earliest sites where the Middle Paleolithic cultures were discovered. Le Mecoque and Le Mousterian. Sir, parallel to your thought-related preparation, I want you to keep going through the archaeology also. I mean, this is mandatory that every day you do it. See, these are the two major segments. One is thought, the other is archaeology, fossils. These are the two things that you will have to prepare on a daily basis. When it comes to the rest of the things, maybe you can have a slight slack, sir. Especially those who have a possibility of attempting this very year. You have no choice of taking a risk there. It doesn't mean that the other fellows can. If the other fellows, if you are neglecting the daily work, after 4 months, you are there at the same position where you were on the first day in the class. One proper reading of what you have written in the class has to be done. It's quite possible that n number of spelling errors were there, or certain gaps are there, certain understanding issues are there. You try to see to it that you settle the things with me at the same time. And secondly, I wanted to say this, when you have objective type exam, be prepared for the objective type exam. At least the last one I have informed, but the next one I will not inform. That will be an objective type exam in archaeology. Questions like what is the meaning of Abelian culture or Aldovian culture, or draw one particular type of a tool. Questions like, what phase you find celts, or who was the man in such and such phase. I may also ask you to draw a small picture showing where particular cultures were found in the country. That is going to be a paper. I have given the paper. And did you come with your maps today by any chance? Let's see if at all we can use them. Those are the things that are already known to you. There was something called Levalloisian technique we were mentioning in the previous class. So we'll start writing down. So who was the man here? Neanderthal. So remember a couple of things here. There's nothing new that you are writing from there. Everything was done in yesterday's class. We'll be elaborating on them, but before you write an elaborate note, likhi lo, I'll wait. You must remember certain key points. As I was saying earlier, Erectus was the first man to stand. One view was that Habilis was the first one to use tools. But of course, people said, based on the archaeological evidences, during the time of Erectus, we found more number of tools not in the Habilis time. It may be that he was initiating. That could be our own reply. When it comes to Neanderthal, this was a man who seemed to be close to sapiens in reason. Something that I must not have said in the class earlier. Neanderthal had much bigger brain compared to humans, Homo sapiens. This also became a puzzle. How is it that a more brainy individual got extinct and a less brainy fellow continued? Maybe we used, he didn't use. As simple as use and disuse theory. Many times it happens. You attend those acidic, uncomfortable classes for over 3-4 months. You don't use your notes, your neighbor uses. The one who stays in your room. He gets marks you are not getting. He's using, you're not using. Neanderthal was a more brainy fellow, close to human reason. There is something else that you should remember about him. This must have been probably the first fellow to start believing in supernatural. I have made a mention some time back that during the excavation they found in the Neanderthal regions intentional burials and possibly the kind of worship or decoration of the individual. It is here you should remember one place in Iraq called Shanidar. So these are the very basic things that must be there in your answers. Examiner looks for them, whether the sites are there. Pictures he can understand, even if you are not drawing properly, he will understand. Maps and pictures are of course mandatory. When it comes to facts, you cannot take a risk. And we are also going to see in the upcoming classes. Look at your syllabus 1.6. Paper 1, 1.6. Don't look tired. I hate it. (1.6) in Neanderthal you have two names, La Chapelle aux Saints. There is one other name called Mount Carmel. Neanderthal itself was uncomfortable for us, and so many details there. This is one way of showing off. Every discipline would want to show off. When it comes to anthropology, names, nomenclature is a way of attracting people, boasting of your own selves. These are the two names given to Homo neanderthalensis. One is called a progressive fellow, one is a classical fellow. Meaning with regard to time, one is a person who came earlier, the other who came a little later. La Chapelle aux Saints is the older fossil. Mount Carmel is a newer fossil. My intention here is to tell you that don't get petrified looking at the names. There is nothing great there. Simplify the task. Use your own language. Just remember that suppose he gives you in the exam Mount Carmel man, that's how he used to give. He is actually talking about the progressive or more evolved Neanderthal. Something interesting here. Throughout the journey, starting from say the ape fellows and then Australo, then others, etc., there is actually a constant increase in the cranial capacity. But suddenly we said that when we came to Neanderthal, this person had much larger cranial capacity when compared to humans. Till now, whenever a fossil was found, suppose somebody at 670 cc was there, we were placing him near to Australo, one form of Australo. Or somebody who is coming at 1000 cc, we were placing him at Homo erectus. I mean, there are several other characters. I am singling out this element of cranial capacity. Humans have, as you know, we have between 1200 to 1300. On the other hand, we had Neanderthal, who was ranging from 1400 to 1700. So in the process of arranging individuals in the evolutionary line of Homo sapiens, based on the cranial capacity we were having. So higher the cranial capacity, meaning more nearer to Homo sapiens. But when it comes to Neanderthal, among the classical and progressive, classical is far from Homo sapiens when compared to in terms of cranial capacity. So classical fellow has higher cranial capacity when compared to progressive fellow. So it's like the graph goes up and falls. This is something that you would make a note as of now, but then later we'll be using it in the comparison related questions. I was mentioning one question, comment on the changing brain size in the evolution from Australo to Homo. So this picture starts with chimpanzees somewhere by 400. Then you have Australopithecus africanus somewhere about 500. So the range goes up to about 670 among different species therein. Habilis at about 700, Erectus at about 1000, Neanderthal, the lesser side there, at 400, and then humans ranging between 1200 and about 1300. So you see that there would be an increase, then there is a fall. You're supposed to draw the graph. This is optional, bottom. But if at all somebody is drawing the bottom also, that gives the complete understanding and command. So you can see in relative terms and in actual terms also the change in the cranial capacity. I reiterate this, whenever you feel disturbed with the subject, especially archaeology, remember the number 110, the marks that were asked in the previous exam. In fact, I personally take a lot of risk by dealing with these things in the beginning of the course. I don't put it who made it. I mean, it's like a graph that नीचे वाले ड्रॉ करना नहीं, अभी तो भूल जाओ, बाद में देखते हैं. We are right now talking about the culture of that person. Who was more robust than humans. Cubic centimeters, sir. Scale you are asking, right? Y-axis. Cubic centimeters. Generally, cranial capacity is measured in cubic centimeters. We are going to have separate discussions on how different measurements are going to be made. How the nasal measurements are, how the cranial measurements are, how you measure the living individuals, how you measure the dead individuals, whether there is any difference in the so-called cranial capacity. Can I go? If you have finished your art forms. We are talking about Neanderthal. Sir, may I? మీరు ఇంకా ఫస్ట్లోనే ఉన్నట్టున్నారు, అయిపోయిందా? Keep writing, sir. Middle Paleolithic culture. Middle Paleolithic culture. It witnessed the beginning of heterogeneity of tools, and the beginnings of intentional burials with most of the settlements in the caves, along with a possibility of confirming belief in supernatural. Right in the next paragraph. It had a combination of tools. Of lower Paleolithic, such as hand axes, along with Clactonian flakes, Such a coexistence also confirms evolution of the same population from lower Paleolithic culture to the Middle Paleolithic. The first site of Middle Paleolithic cultures discovered in Europe that is Le Micoque was characteristic of predominant flake tools. Le Mousterian has evidence of Levalloisian technique. Mousterian has evidence of Levalloisian technique. Most of the European sites yielded a sophisticated hand axe compared to the crude hand axes of Lower Paleolithic. Make a note there. Some of the flake tools include, we are writing about 2 or 3 of them. Number 1, burins or gravers. They are used for engraving on the soft stones or bones and on the cave walls. It indicates that humans practiced expression of their imagination in the form of primitive art. Lower Paleolithic saw the beginnings of Paleolithic art. Middle Paleolithic saw the beginnings of Paleolithic art that was extensively found in the Upper Paleolithic. Secondly, scrapers. They are made of, scrapers are made of medium-sized flakes, and were used for scraping barks of the trees, dressing wood, and preparing animal hides. Hide, you understand, no? When it comes to human, we call it skin. When it comes to, sometimes when we become thick-skinned, we also become the possessor of a hide. Sometimes what happens is, how many other times our elders tell us we don't listen. So my father used to scold us, thick-skinned fellows. Thick-skinned fellows meaning the ones that you have hide, not a skin. It always required a dictionary to understand what he was speaking. Yeah, when I said that, I'll show you something. This is a very private thing, but in the process of evolution, I try to use this also. Just have a look at this. You're not drawing any, we'll come back to write. This will be one of the pictures I share with the students so that you use this in the exam. In fact, this has to be slightly up so that this is something that you can easily draw. 3. You have the Australoafricanus or afarensis there, with such a huge brow ridge and not a very elevated head there. When it comes to the humans, such a hugely elevated head. So much of space created inside. Those fellows didn't need so small space. When it comes to erectus, he was also, in the making of standing erect and doing all sorts of things that we are also doing. But he was in the process, he was not having that forehead. Remember, I am repeating this for you. This is a very thick brow ridge that he was having. But then suddenly the head starts. There is no forehead there. Immediately after the eyebrows, you have a head beginning. And then somebody is pulling the head from the back. So he has a very long head, if you see from the side. Instead of having that very beautiful curved circular thing, you have an elongated one. That's the kind of a thing. And in our case, gracefully, kind of. Somebody had, an expert was drawing. That's how is the creation. The beautiful, that is nothing but the human. So start appreciating your own beauty. Start appreciating your own beauty. So as we get into the other topics, when we are comparing ourselves with the ape fellows, you start feeling proud. So that was one picture that I would share with you. Keep writing, sir. We were writing about scrapers. Then comes the points. Points. Points are prepared from point అంటే నేను మాట్లాడుకున్నట్టున్నాం కదా వాటి గురించి. Points are prepared from Levalloisian technique. They can be of different sizes and cross sections. And possibly were used as the earliest tools of fishing. Right, the next one there, borers. B-O-R-E-R, borer. Borers are used to work on the other materials. Such as wood or bone, especially to drill holes, facilitating hafting of flakes. Hafting, you remember, putting them in the slots in the handle, or you're tying to the handle, that is hafting. Flakes. Go back to the general characteristics chart that you have written. General characteristics chart. Copy the materials from there, the materials used during that period. Did you finish at least one notebook till now in the class? The day you finish the notebook, you have to celebrate. Distribute sweets and say that I have finished one notebook, new one I have got. General characteristics chart, you take down materials from there. Materials used in the Middle Paleolithic. మీలో మీరుగా పులకరిస్తున్నారు, ఏమైంది? Can I go? Sir, don't relax. Write down. Lifestyle of Middle Paleolithic. Lifestyle of Middle Paleolithic. Evidences from Eastern Africa. Evidences from Eastern Africa. And Shanidar from Iraq, IRAQ, show that Middle Paleolithic man, that is Neanderthal, Neander, Neanderthal, lived in the rock shelters and caves, moving away from the river sites of Lower Paleolithic. According to Leakey, you have written the name earlier, Leakey. According to Leakey, it was due to a need of more stone material for the tools. According to Leakey, Neanderthal shifted from massive tools to small tools or flakes that required more raw material. Continue writing there. This was also a phase that shows a belief in supernatural, which is confirmed in the intentional burial practices. Burial, B-U-R-I-A-L. Burial practices. Keep writing. For example, in the Aldovian region, the Neanderthal skulls are found buried in particular directions, accompanied by certain tools. Remember, sir, from now onwards we will be using one word called grave tools, Grave. Grave tools meaning the tools that we are finding in the graves. What you have written just now, in such and such area, we found several burials with the similar kind of placements of the bodies. So heads on one side, you must be knowing on which side the heads are placed in your own community. Every community has got its own direction preference. It's not simply the direction there. Sometimes what happens is we find elsewhere, the earliest graves, along with the humans, certain animal long bones are placed in a particular way. Animal long bones in a particular way, as if they are weapons for them or they are guarding them. This and I don't know if I mentioned this. If at all you are having the book of Ember, you can look into the book, this particular picture, imaginary picture. In that picture, what he gives is Neanderthal is a group of Neanderthal men are burying the dead fellow by tying him with the rope. Tying him with the rope meaning the knees touching the chin. So you are actually placing him this way. The hands are tied and then leg and the entire body is tied as if you are not letting him escape the wrath of the death. And then it's not simply that, the photograph also has one of the Neanderthal man holding a club. Tu uthega to marunga kind of a thing. He is holding a club also, the material culture too. One question was posted to me. The question was, what is the क्या था second question क्या था? Cultural materialism. Significance of cultural materialism. Just before walking into the class, I had seen the question. Maybe in tomorrow's class, I will be addressing that. I really liked that question. Significance of cultural materialism. One more question was asked. Difference in the views of the Harris himself. At one place, he says that you follow ethic and amic both. At one place, he says that you follow ethic. These are the questions I will be answering in tomorrow's class. I really love the kind of questions that you people are posting. Generally, what I do is I accumulate all those questions to deal with in one particular class, but these are tempting questions for me, so I'll be talking about them in tomorrow's class itself. Tomorrow, nahi, matlab day after tomorrow. Tomorrow we're not meeting. Keep writing, sir. In Shanidar, continuation from there. In Shanidar, Neanderthal fossils are found with fossilized flowers, that must have been sprinkled on the dead body. Through the dating technique of pollen grain analysis, did you try looking into the dating techniques in the book? If at all you haven't, this was one of the techniques there. We will be talking about them shortly. Through the technique of pollen grain analysis, the time of the flowers is confirmed to be equal to the period of the Neanderthal fossil. Coupled with this, the depth at which and the surroundings where the pollen grains are found, can't be a natural phenomena. can't be a natural phenomena. Hence indicates belief in supernatural, and the respect of the dead. Come to the next one, Upper Paleolithic culture. Upper Paleolithic culture. You remember the time period, 40,000 to 10,000 years ago. Upper Paleolithic. It presented a different tool typology. It presented a different tool typology and technology compared to lower and middle Paleolithic. Go back to the general characteristic chart. Lower and upper Paleolithic. Go to the general characteristics chart. I repeat the sentence if at all you missed it. It has a different tool typology and technology when compared to lower and middle Paleolithic. In the general characteristics chart, you can see the list of the tools. Upper Paleolithic, what tools? Bone tools, blade tools, and bones, blade, and cave art. Okay, keep that in mind, come back. Non-lithic materials such as bone, horn, and ivory were extensively used.
Ivory means elephant.
Were extensively used. In Europe, based on the tools and the material, used, the Upper Paleolithic culture is categorized into number one, Aurignacian culture, otherwise called blade and burin culture. By now you know what a burin is. Blades are nothing but a thin parallel sided tools. See, there are certain terms here. We will be using a word called retouching. What we mean by retouching is there is an intentional sharpening of the tool. For example, if that is one of the sections of the blade, longer side sections of the blade, so just imagine your own blade at home. If I am not sharpening this is an unretouched blade. It may be a 4 centimeter long, 6 centimeter long. But what I can perhaps do is, I can sharpen it that way. So if I am seeing the other section, I would see that there is a sharpening on this side. But this sharpening may be in some other way also. When he says a double-edged sharpened blade, The sharpening may be along one side or maybe along both the sides. Just imagine somebody at that point of time in history is doing all this. What under the sun he might be doing with such kind of tools, God knows. This is the meaning of retouching. Right on. Retouching is intentional sharpening. Origination. It is the name given to the culture of Upper Paleolithic based on the first site yielding such characteristics that is l'origine of France. The site provided blades of different sizes, and borers. Similar culture was later found in the early Homo sapiens sites. Of Northern America, Italy, Spain, and Finland. Most often, apart from bones, sedimentary rocks were used for blades due to the basic characteristic of layers and flexibility of extracting material from the thin sedimentary formations. Secondly, Solutrean culture. Also called needle culture. It is named after the first site. Called Solutre. S-O-L-U-T-R-E. Solutre, France. First site of discovery, that is Solutre in France. The site yielded different types of needles that were categorized as eyed needles and uneyed needles. Eyed needle is the one that has a hole. It's a confirmed tool for maybe stitching. If eyed needle is there, it is for stitching, confirmed. But if it is uneyed needle, what for the use? Pakon vadodanka. Poking. Super asla. No samanyadu kaadu. Right down. Eyed needles were a proof of stitching or making clothes from animal skins and tree barks. The purpose of uneyed needles is difficult to prove. They must have been used in fishing or for art engravings. In our own language, we called it poking here. Heights of decency asla. I'll show you something before you finish writing. It is slightly unprocessed. I still have to work on this. But I wanted to use this word for you and then show certain things before you conclude on that. All those individuals belonging to genus Homo, we call them hominins. I was intending to give two words today. One was Australopithecines. Whole lot of people in Australo. If the entire group of genus Homo is put together, we call them hominins. Just have a look at this. At the end of the day, most of the archaeology and human fossil studies is a test of your imagination. Because you see, even if we find fossils, you don't find hair on them. So what may be the skin color? We have no clue. So it all depends on your own imagination and the way you fill up things. These will be the pictures that you will be storing back home and you would make them, because such a question is yet to come. Geographical spread of hominins. You need not have to write anything. It's only the spread that you are trying to show in the map. It may be one or two maps within which you are trying to give. So you can see there, that is the erectus fellow. By now you have already come across this Homo erectus when we were reading the syllabus. From the reading of the syllabus, you already know that erectus of Africa, erectus of Java, erectus of China, and then Narmada man in India. So that's what is the spread there. Some bit of Europe is also added, western part. We were highly unjust in creating that picture, because that had to have some kind of a European tinge, northwestern European tinge, along the Rift Valley. Interestingly, all those pictures that I could get of them, they were all having the fairer skin tone. It may be possible that some of them were blacks also. Very short spread of him. Neanderthal man, somebody who survived along with the humans, Homo sapiens, early Homo sapiens, was having a very small aerial extent. Most of those areas were were very cold when compared to rest of the areas at that point of time. But then, any random picture, I didn't take intentionally, he is not my cousin or somebody. Just imagine this was existing along with this. That's the reason why we say travel. Travel gives opportunities. Travel gives understanding. This man was not. Some of us are like that. We are busy within our own. జనాలు అందరూ చూస్తున్నారు, నిన్నే చూస్తున్నారు అందరూ. నువ్వేమో ఇష్టం డొల్లు విరుచుకుంటున్నావు. వచ్చినప్పటి నుంచి చూస్తున్నా. పొద్దున్న లేవగానే విరుచుకుంటే ఒక అర్థం ఉంది. క్లాస్లో మాటి మాటికి ఏం బాగుంటుంది, పక్కోడు చచ్చిపోవడం తప్ప. You have given the meaning to your neighbor? Very good. You have finished that task. So this is how, this is one of the questions, sir. Actually, it feels very good reading the mind of UPSC. What might be asked in the exam. And accordingly, you are trying to make your tools ready. Sharpen your tools, retouch your tools, and keep them ready. So that, did you like this one? It's only that simple world map, one after the other. Trying to look at that. That forms your answer. And you can garnish it with some sites. What could be this? You already know the names of the sites. You need not accurately know. If you know that, okay, Iraq, somewhere from there you draw an arrow and write down, this could be the thing. But when you are writing such an answer, we don't expect you to give the entire world map. Suppose you are writing about this particular person, it's just sufficient to give the red area there. Thankfully here we can see some related to UK also. So let's go back from there. Write down that question, you will prepare it later once I send you these slides. Geographical spread of hominins. Geographical spread of hominins. Let's come back here. We were writing about Solutrean culture. What was the last sentence you had written? Okay. Solutrean cultural area. Solutrean cultural area yielded the evidence of early Homo sapiens, that is Cro-Magnon man. Thirdly, we are writing about variants within Upper Paleolithic. The basis is European sites. The third one is Magdalenian culture. Magdalenian culture. Magdalenian culture, also called art form culture. Magdalenian culture or art form culture. It refers to the flake tools made of bones with a definite presence of art forms. Ivory and horn were extensively used. Ivory and horn were extensively used. And the region presented different articles confirming artistic expressions of early man. This is a picture that I have taken from your Nadeem Hasnain's General Anthropology. Some of the needles there, certain other things. You can go through. Those are the bones, the two. Several slots were made into it, purpose they know. Or we can imagine the purpose. The moment you can imagine what primitive man must have done with the tools, you become an archaeologist, like our friend. We'll move to the next one, Paleolithic art. Any problems, sir? Paleolithic art. I had indicated something in the previous class that Upper Paleolithic was the time of art forms. If this is a question, the expectation of the examiner is to tell you during which time period art forms were found. We said that in Indian case, starting from maybe Middle Paleolithic to a long time, we have evidences of art forms. When it comes to majority of Europe, Upper Paleolithic alone. Suddenly when man moved into Mesolithic, art forms disappeared. Reason could be you got busy with the livelihood. When it comes to categorization of art forms, we see two variants there. Remember this man's name? That was the very first writing on Paleolithic art. Descriptions of Altamira art forms by, that's the name of the person, Dan Matalin de Solins. We can with love call him the Salins. Who said that only Indians have long names? Especially South Indians. A to Z Lakshmi. Such a long name there. I am trying to give you the categorization. That is the basic categorization. One is called the home art, the second category is cave art. Home art or art mobile, meaning these are the art forms that people have identified on mobile articles. It is also a time when man started using extensively ornaments, bangles, necklaces, kind of things. So one is the home art or art mobile that you find on mobile articles. The second one is cave art, as it is suggesting. It may be on the walls. Okay.
Mobile art means tools.
It may be tools, it may be ornaments, it may be anything that you can carry. Make a note of this. In the exam condition, extreme right column need not be so very meticulously memorized. You may say that some mobile articles are there like jewelry, etc. But the places are mandatory. One of the reasons why people hate this question. But examiner appreciates, gives you good marks. So first we are only taking the names of the sites, then we will write down the details. Don't lose hope, don't give up, don't question. ఇది రాయాలా, ఇది చదవాలా, It's something like having a blind faith. You don't know swimming, but your teacher is asking you to take a dip in the Pacific, middle of the ocean. Don't question. Trust is very much important, or faith rather. Trust is a smaller word. So when he was asking his disciples to walk on the water, the moment they start having a doubt, they were there under the water. Don't doubt yourself, don't doubt what you're studying. ఎవరు కాదు మాస్టర్ దాని గురించి మాట్లాడదాం. తెలుగు వస్తుందా? వస్తుంది కదా, రాసుకొని పెట్టుకోండి, మాట్లాడదాం. సెపరేట్గా ఎందుకు రాసామంటే ఐ లవ్ దట్. దిస్ ఇస్ నాట్ ఎ పర్సన్ హూ ఇస్ గివింగ్ ద థియరీ. మాస్టర్ ప్లీజ్. Among anything else, what is given the highest importance by the writers or the researchers, which is more attractive, is Venus. Venus, the earliest Venus statues. In the Krober's book that I was showing, Krober gives a very detailed analysis of different Venus statues. What is the width of it, what is the height, and all those details, why in this particular area this kind of a Venus is found. Maybe that people in that area want slender females, kind of things. The way you are picturizing your gods is what you see in the supernatural, what you expect in the supernatural. When you see a goddess having more than 8 hands, means that you want your God to be very powerful, much more than what you can do with your own hands, with your 2 hands. What is the meaning of Venus? Nobody knows. But the statues are found. The figurines are found. This is a picture from your NCERT. One of the earliest, this is the earliest figurines we have found in human history. What it represents, nobody knows. Maybe it is the interest the human had in his own body, or maybe that he is trying to look at a present God in that particular form, or maybe whatever you can add to it. We are using that word Willendorf because Willendorf was the first site from where the Venus statue was found, Venus figurine was found. After that there were several other sites, but Willendorf got associated with Venus. Now you cannot question why only Venus, you can call something else also. You may call it Earth also, Mother Earth, Mother Goddess. But somehow maybe the writers there, the archaeologists there, were looking at the female from an altogether different angle. Venus symbolizes beauty, Earth symbolizes mother. They were not looking at mother in that statue. Slightly more irksome names, but can't help it. గట్టిగా ఊపిరి పీల్చొద్దు. Pronunciations, I leave it to you. I am interested in the last one, macaroni. We'll talk about it. Macaroni art forms. I will be circulating one summary sheet of major tool cultures, tool typologies, 10 or 12 different variants, so that if a question comes on them, Which one? Which one? Pindal. This is one name. Comma. There has to be a comma here. I'm so sorry. Has to be a comma. ఇది కూడా ఏం చిన్నగా లేదు కదా, ఇది కూడా కొంచెం. You don't ask me how to memorize, that's your problem. It's like I'm giving you a weapon, how you use it, your problem. I want to talk, can I? These are all cave arts. Drawings on the cave walls. Very familiar for us is Bhimbetka. Some of you must have visited. Industrial tour from your college, Bhimbetka. I don't know what industry they have in Bhimbetka, but generally people go that way. Goa industrial tour. ఏం మాస్టర్ అలసిపోతున్నారా? Only humans have that capability among all the primates to have sweat. All other fellows, they don't. We will see in one of the classes in the primates. We'll see how the wet nose helped the people when they have snout. Suddenly, when people came from the trees onto the ground, one thing they found disturbing was long snout. I think at different points of time in evolution, different bodily organs had their own importance. At one point of time, nose was important. Later, there was a time when eyes had to be placed in one particular way. Just imagine we also having some kind of a disturbance in between, long nose kind of a thing, two eyes on two sides. This eye sees that side, this eye sees that side. Very comfortable actually. Though you are closing one eye with the other eye, you can see the rest of the thing. Just imagine your nose is more powerful than the eyes. See, as long as nose was powerful, eyes were not doing so much of an intricate job. Now your sensory skill of the nose is much less when compared to. And just imagine we didn't have sweat glands. We only had to deal with that with an open eye every time. Most of us in the class are there with an open mouth. Just imagine. And we had all wet noses every time, oozing out. That's where I say, when we are looking at the beauty of the human, all these things count. We will see several other disturbing things. So when you are sweating, feel happy that you are sweating. You are not doing that. Let me come to this macaroni. I'll explain this and then we'll continue writing on. There are different kinds of art forms. Maybe if I can show something there. This is a very familiar thing for us. Bhimbetka's art forms. Typical red ochre. These are all outline drawings. There are several such frames there. I was using one, once again taken from your NCRT. What is that animal they are traveling on? It may be donkey also. Definitely not a camel. Camel or shape I don't know. Chinna camel ayi untadi teliyadu. Chinna is small. Maybe a big procession is going, or maybe they are going for a war, or they are going for hunting, all of them together. But don't know, these are all outline drawings. Identifying what animal they are drawing becomes difficult sometimes, but Bhimbetka also yielded certain pictures where you can confirmedly say that this is a bull that they are drawing. Bull was also people from that area, if at all you are there. I'll come to Macroni. Macroni is much more intricate, intensive kind of a drawing. Say, starting from the time of Middle Paleolithic, when Neanderthal was there, this is a Cro-Magnon time. When man was living in the caves, and when he was starting to bury the people there, along with that he also started with this expressing himself in the art. When he is expressing, maybe he is drawing whatever he is seeing, or he is imagining things that may not be existing. We see that in the cave art there were certain panels that showed the hunting expeditions being drawn. Maybe he was planning. It is said by Louis Binford that intelligence or the cranial capacity, when it was growing, particular regions in the brain when they were growing, when they were evolving, it may be because of the primitive man taking up certain kinds of tasks. When he was mostly using this articulating task, particular regions of the brain might be growing in complexity, or they were becoming more mature. So it is not simply that just because he was using, it's not that way. Maybe because he was getting into some kind of activity, that particular region of the brain was growing or developing. Growing doesn't simply mean in size, but also in the complexity in the development. So maybe that he already knows the places he is trying to plan in advance. That could be one. Or maybe he is trying to tell his future generations, see, this is how I have hunted. But Macroni is a special form wherein you see very frequently violent scenes. One example I give you. There were pictures where horse or any other animal for that matter were drawn being pierced with so many arrows, and then so much of bloodshed is shown there. And there were certain peculiar things such as human face with animal body, animal face with human body, something like a flying horse, what we call with unicorn, one horn it has unicorn kind of. So these we get a doubt whether he was seeing them and drawing or whether he was imagining and drawing. And hence Macroni attracted several archaeologists to the study of Paleolithic art. Some people also say that when individuals with zoomorphic features, some kind of animal face or animal body, when you're drawing, it may also indicate sorcery, belief in magic, that maybe they were also conducting some kind of magical spells so that they get a proper hunt kind of a thing. So it's all a wonderful thing where you see a small evidence, you try to draw a big story from it. So before some kind of a conclusion is brought from the archaeological finds, it becomes very necessary for the archaeologist to have that kind of an imagination. Will you write down? You have time? No, also the blunt ga asalu. Daya dakshinya levaslu. So the day after tomorrow, we will first finish. Actually, I am going very slow in archaeology. This is not my speed. So the day after tomorrow, I would want to finish the whole lot of India when it comes to Paleolithic, middle, upper and lower. Yeah, आप लिख लीजिए. I don't know. It's 23rd class. 23rd class, है ना? We were writing about we have finished writing Paleolithic cultures, lower, middle and upper. And we have discussed art, Paleolithic art. Certain things are pending, writing is pending. Your source will be your class notes. Yeah. So next class, sir, थोड़ा सा अपने आप को और motivated रखिए and be a little more energetic so that I also can perform. Generally what I believe is teachers are performing artists. Teachers are performing artists and the performance of the artist depends on the appreciation of the students.